If I could teach the whole world one thing, it would be the power in trusting your intuition. So much gets led astray because we don't trust our inner knowing and how to access it. And that's the goal here. The Empowered Intuitive is here to bridge the gap in your spiritual knowledge, to open your mind and give you permission to decide what's best for you and the world around you. And I'm here to be real and silly and have fun while doing it. Welcome back to the Empowered Intuitive podcast. I have been heated. How have you been? What's it like for you out there? America? Today we are going to cover what the fuck is going on in America. I'm not attempting to be a political podcast, but everything is holistic and we can't avoid politics. My existence being trans and non-binary, being queer, inherently just becomes political in today's climate. So the reason why I felt called to make this podcast is I've been having a lot of clients and fellow practitioners asking me my thoughts on what's going on in America. I've seen so many videos of people being like, should I be worried now? Should I freak out? Like, what should I be doing? And we're kind of all, it seems, trying not to freak out, but also at the same time, this is how things have happened in the past where nobody did anything. And then it was kind of like, now we need to have World War II. So I've been talking to some clients and my Reiki master about this and many other people. And every single time I talk about it, they're always saying, wow, that was a therapy session for me. That makes so much sense. Thank you for putting it into perspective for me. This answers a lot of the questions that I was having. So I just decided, why not bring this information that I've just been having a lot of conversations about to y'all? So number one, you can get a little bit more educated, and you can kind of make your own decisions on what you should be doing, because bottom line is we're in a revolution right now, whether we want to be or not. And we all need to know what our role in the revolution is, right? We all need to know what our limits are, what we're prepared to do, where are we going to put our money where our mouth is, right? And for every person, that's going to be different. The limits, it's going to be unique to your life. So I just wanted to break this down. It's going to be a lot of stuff that we're going to be covering. I literally have right next to me an outline that I wrote. So I'm going to try and stick to that outline because it's a lot of intersecting lines. I'm, like I said, not a historian. I'm not a political professional, but I am informed. I am psychic. And I will talk about my credentials, quote unquote. But before we get into this, what is the purpose of this? I'm not here to tell you what to do with your life. I'm here to help you find deeper connections and understanding as to where you fit in this revolution that is happening. I'm not here to tell you what to think, but I'm here to break down from different lenses, from astrology, from psychic, from things I've channeled, from my own opinion. And I'll make sure to kind of put that in there, where these sources are coming from, so that you can do your own research, so that you can understand what is my opinion, what isn't, and make your informed decisions moving forward. This is also a great resource for other people. If you are tired and you don't want to explain to all these people, or if your person in your life is struggling and really, needs to hear this, use this as a resource, right? This is a free resource. This entire podcast is designed to be a free resource for you. I mean, once I get a certain amount of, because I took so long of a break, I just had gotten monetization back then. So now I need to get like 10,000 hours each month of streaming and stuff. So the more people you tell, the more I can make money off of corporations, which is great. And then I can keep making free content for you. It's very anti-capitalist to get money from corporations to talk about how we're going to revolutionize and get rid of capitalism. I love it. Obviously, I'm not gonna do ads for partnerships that aren't things that I agree with. But we'll see. We'll see how that goes. But anyways, who the fuck am I? Why am I talking about this? Right. So beyond the obvious answer that I have a podcast, and currently in America, the Second Amendment and the First Amendment and the Third and all the amendments are still working. So I can just say whatever I want to say because it's America as of February 25, 2025. But beyond that, we're gonna look at this through an astrology lens. Again, I'm not going to get super, super heavy. There's actually only two big placements or changes, transits that I'm talking about. So I am an astrologer, and I think that astrology is a very, very important and useful tool that we can use to not just help our personal life, but it shows us collective stuff. So when looking historically at astrological transits and things that have taken place in the past, it can reveal what's going to be happening for the transits that we have now currently. So we have that piece. In human design, which you may or may not know, I am a human design reader. I'm a human design coach, integration coach. It is one of my ADHD obsessions and a system similar to astrology because it pulls from astrology and I Ching and Ayurveda and Kabbalah. So it pulls from a lot of ancient practices and it gives you like really, really cool stuff about your life. So in human design, I'm a manifesting generator and a 5-line. Literally other human design people say that if 5-lines were supposed to have jobs, it would be being a podcast host. Manifesting generators, they're the only hybrid type. So they are here to show us evolution and change. They are here to show us, can we mix things together and make things better? Can we create things that don't exist? So I already think in that way. How can I make things better than how they are? What things are broken? What things aren't working? As a 5-line, 5-lines are really, really effective at seeing patterns, seeing cycles, seeing how everything works together. And I have all passive arrows, so I'm a big picture person. So I can see all of these pieces all at once and not get overwhelmed by them. And I can see how they all intersect and weave together. So it's super easy for me to recognize patterns. Highly gifted and talented kid type of thing. When you do that test, it's just about recognizing patterns. And then also as a 5-line, we're natural karma cleaner uppers. We're naturally, the 5-line is called the heretic. So we're naturally the people that speak out. We're usually ahead of the curve. So our ideas are often seen as, what did I write? What is the word that I wrote? Our ideas are often seen as, we're just usually ostracized because people are like, what? That doesn't make sense. And then like 2 years later, it happens. I've had this happen so much in my life, from like big picture things to even small things. Like there was this video game franchise I liked and I was like, oh, they should make this character a playable character and give him his own game. He became a playable character like 2 games later or like 1 game later. It was crazy. So like I have a lot of stuff like that where I'm able to see patterns, see connections, think ahead of the curve, think about where we're going and how can we make this better for humanity? How can we improve? And to not be afraid to go against the grain. Now, the other part of me that is qualified to talk on this topic, being a psychic channel, I have connected to the Akashic records. I've connected to different beings and realms and different people. And one of my gifts is predictions. Not every person who's psychic has this gift. And I've been pretty accurate predicting people's divorces, predicting when I do my year ahead tarot readings. I have clients that have come back for years and they're like, exactly what you said was going to happen was exactly what happened the entire year. So I do have a strong gift of prediction, of tapping into the future and seeing the future possibilities and timelines and understanding how all of that kind of stuff works because it can be very nebulous. I also have the gift of tapping into people and things, just sensing the energy and having that connection with the Akashic records, with the history of everything ever and the future of everything ever. And then on a more human level, my ancestors were Jewish and they survived the Holocaust. I do feel that people whose ancestors have survived through certain things have a stronger intuition, or just have this walking with us, with our ancestors walking with us, this understanding of, hey, there's red flag right here, intuition, boop, 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 boop. It has been crazy. Like, there has been things that I've been like, should I do this? And then I get the no from my ancestors, and then later on I find out it's anti-Semitic or it's bad. Case in point, I really was into Teslas. And I really wanted to buy a Tesla when I was looking at buying like my first like real like used car, not just like a like here I'll give you a couple $1,000s, like actually buying it from a dealership. I was looking at buying used Teslas and I couldn't afford it. And there was a lot of pieces with like electric vehicles and stuff. And I just felt like just it didn't work out. I ended up buying Subaru. Glad I bought a Subaru. Never been more happy to own a Subaru at this point in my life. But yeah, there's certain ways that I feel connected to the writing on the wall. I felt in the beginning with the stuff with Palestine and Gaza, like I called it genocide like right away, and I lost a lot of fellow Jewish followers and friends that I had met in public in real life, and they were like, no, like how dare you say that? That's like a big accusation. Well, we're here over a year later, still happening. The last qualification that I have is that I'm neurodivergent. I have ADHD. They've done studies that people with ADHD and people who are neurodivergent are experts at recognizing patterns. So not only do I have this pattern piece for my human design, but I also have it from just my brain and how it's wired. So people who are neurodivergent, their brain thinks non-linearly. They can see more, they can sense more, they can feel more. There isn't many scientific studies that I'm aware of, but a lot of people who are psychic or highly intuitive are also neurodivergent because our brain doesn't filter away all the other information in our surroundings, like sensations and textures and sounds and psychic information. That's my theory about this. But yeah, so people with neurodivergent, that you can look that scientific study up, are really good at pattern. They've been talking about like in the workforce, they should bring in people with ADHD to help make the rhythms and work-life balance better for even neurotypical people, because how like in tune they are with these things. So those are my credentials. Honestly, like that's for the people who are maybe just being recommended this podcast. And if you don't know what any of those things are that I'm saying, it really doesn't matter. You can just listen, make your own decisions. I feel like my camera is like, I keep turning this way. Maybe I should turn it more that way. Okay. Okay, so let's get into it. Like I said, wrote this out because I wanted to try and make this as logical as possible in the flow of things. The astrology is going to be very straightforward, but the rest of it is a lot of pieces that I see and I've studied and I've done research and looked at history and connected psychically and all these pieces that I'm trying to like present to you, and it's a very nebulous thing. So we'll start with the astrology. We'll start with the easier thing, actually. So there's two big transits that happened in 2025 that astrologers, not just me, but other astrologers that I've read from and listened to. So it's not just my own personal expertise as an astrologer, but looking at other people who've been studying this tool and this system for so long. The biggest piece was the shift from Pluto in Capricorn to Pluto in Aquarius. Now, Pluto is what they call a generational planet. It moves over 20-year cycles. So people who are born in the same generation will all have the same Pluto placement. And therefore, it affects us more on a collective level than a personal level, or rather, it affects us equally on a personal and collective level. Let's say that. So Pluto is the planet of intuition and mystery and taboo, of transformation, a lot of dark, shadowy pieces, right? It was just in Capricorn. And when Pluto is in a sign, it illuminates the things that the sign kind of rules over. So Pluto in Capricorn, Capricorn is a Saturn ruled sign. Saturn is the planet of order and structure. It's very masculine energy, time, right? If we're looking at Greek mythos and things like that, like organization, systems. So Capricorn is ruled by Saturn naturally, and Capricorn in our body is the bones, right? It is the system, the structure, the skeletal system. So when Pluto was in Capricorn, we went through this time period where it was illuminating how our systems and our structures were working behind the scenes, the hidden agendas, the taboo pieces that we didn't think existed. So we had a lot of like the wool being pulled out from over our eyes moments, right? We saw this with like celebrities and their like sex trafficking scandals and abuse and all these pieces. We saw this with like learning that political parties are basically both ruled by the highest bidder, and it doesn't matter Democrat or Republican, they're both bought by companies and corporations, and they're not actually here to serve us as people, right? That lie was kind of revealed. There was a lot of big shifts with this Pluto Capricorn. Now, when the US was founded, it was Pluto Capricorn. So Pluto, you know, like thinking about Pluto Capricorn on July 4th, 1776, this new structure emerging. We are independent. We are going to make our own way. We don't like the way that your structure is serving us. We're trying to find sovereignty and pursuing freedom, achieving our and maintaining power, right? Because Capricorns are high achievers. And then, you know, now we're in Pluto and Aquarius. So the Pluto planet just swapped literally in the beginning of 2025 into Aquarius, and it will be here for 20 years. So Pluto and Aquarius, people thought the shift would be a lot slower, but we saw that with Luigi Mangione assassinating the United Health CEO. That is Pluto Aquarius energy in a nutshell for those who maybe are like, what? Aquarius is also a Saturn ruled sign. Those are the two signs ruled by Saturn. So it still deals with structure and order. However, Aquarius is about change, right? It's about how can we have technological breakthroughs? How can we use our imagination to revalue? Aquarius is very concerned with society as a whole. Where is there abuse of power? Where is there inclusivity and exclusivity? Where is there inequality? Where are we having social hierarchies that don't work, norms that don't work? I meet a lot of Aquarian people, and they're usually like gender non-conforming. Think of David Bowie. He's like the best example of an Aquarius person. Very future forward, concerned, made stuff around space and the future. He was interested in breaking down gender norms. He wore makeup, he wore jumpsuits and play suits and all different kinds of things. The Aquarian energy seeks to help move forward for the collective. How can we support everyone and not just one? And what is standing in our way from doing that? So we should have lots of technological breakthroughs. The last time that this was happening, that's what we saw. A lot of like tech driven type of stuff, more inclusive systems, moving away from the power being held from the top down to egalitarian, everybody. A lot of grassroots energy here. And we are literally in it. We are literally seeing this. And this is a very important piece because, like I said, it's a generational planet. So, like I said, last time Pluto was in Capricorn, 1776. Last time it swapped into Aquarius was 1778. And it was there until 1798. So let's look at the history. What happened the last time Pluto was in Aquarius? The French Revolution, the American Revolution, the Haitian Revolution, the Industrial Revolution, that's our technology stuff. Those first three revolutions were power and equality for people, right? The American Revolution was about rights, segregation. It was about the native people. Like there's so many things. French Revolution, they literally cut the heads off of Marie Antoinette with the guillotine because they were hoarding all of the wealth while everyone else was suffering. And the French people have taken that ideology and kept that with them these past 200 years because their government does one thing to piss them off. They're out in the streets protesting, lighting fires on trash cans. They don't put up with anything. Haitian Revolution was also for freedom over colonization. We had the Age of Enlightenment, a lot of inventions, right? Like vaccines, hot air balloons, sewing machines, all things that make work and labor easier, that make quality of life better. A lot of really cool inventions. But themes that we can expect from looking at it through an astrological lens, but also a historical lens, themes that we're going to expect: dismantling social hierarchies, resistance to authority, revaluing labor, violent responses to economic inequality, using imagination for technological breakthroughs. So we're seeing this where we are collectively in America kind of being forced to recognize and not ignore and speak out about these things because our regular quality of life is being threatened. We are currently in fascism. We are currently being taken advantage of, being stolen from by the people in power, and the people in power giving other people in power that shouldn't be in power. So yeah, this is just looking at it from an astrology lens where we're seeing what happened last time this collective sign influenced humanity. And we saw it was not just in America, it was France, Haitian, or Haiti, and other places in the world, right? So we might have this we're seeing this in Germany with their elections, having far right kind of being elected into power and them speaking out about it. So we're not the only one going through this, but we kind of are the one in the hot seat right now. So the other thing to note is that historically speaking, a lot of nations or empires don't really withstand their Pluto return. So, like I said, Pluto was at the tail end of Capricorn when the US was formed. And we as a country, because you can get an astrology chart for literally anything, for your house, for your wedding day, for your relationship, has an Aquarius moon. So it is really in our emotional piece right now. It is in our emotions, highlighting all of this, telling us we need to change. We need to have these shifts in structures. So a lot of countries or empires don't survive their Pluto return. So the Roman Empire fell after its second Pluto return. It couldn't keep sustaining that same ideology and growth. We saw this as well with Great Britain when they began their third Pluto return. Their slave trade fell apart. So we do see this, I think we are very poised to maybe not withstand our first Pluto return, or to have just such a vastly different landscape after this Pluto return, right? Because we're going to be in this for 20 more years. So think about it in terms of that. We're going to be sitting in this energy for 20 more years. And if we don't act now and we stand by and we wait, it might be longer. It might be some 1984, some Brave New World stuff, if you've read that book, which coincidentally has been banned from schools. And that was like books everyone I knew growing up read about these dystopian government taking over. Like, knowledge is power, y'all. Okay, anyways, I'm getting off topic. The second transit that is very telling So next month in March, well, when this releases, it'll be March. So welcome to March. We're here. Um, the astrology of March is just really intense. I think things are really, really going to start picking up in March. Although psychically, I keep hearing May. So we'll see what's going on with that. I think March to May will be very, very pivotal, very important. But in March, Neptune, the planet, will move into the sign of Aries. And this is also a generational planet. It's slower moving. It will move into Aries and then retrograde back into Pisces and then move forward back into Aries. And the retrograde will only be a couple months. So it's like a lot of planets. When this happens, we get in the new sign, then we get a little preview of it. We come back into the retrograde of tying up those last loose ends from the previous sign and then moving full steam ahead into the new sign. So it'll be here until 2039. So again, a long-term transit for a planet. Like the moon changes, day by day, hour by hour. This is year by year, right? So what historically happened when Neptune was in Aries? Use your intuition. Use your intuition now and see if you can think about, even if you know a little bit about astrology, see if you can guess what historical things were happening. So last time Neptune was in Aries, that was significant. 1861 to 1875. I wonder what happened. What war happened 1861? Yeah, American Civil War. Yeah. Yeah. So we are literally having this Pluto Aquarius American Revolution, French Revolution, Industrial Revolution energy plus American Civil War energy at the same time. We are really poised to have this intense change energy. So yeah, the last time it was in there, American Civil War literally started 1861, right when Neptune went into Aries. So it wasn't like a couple years in. These shifts do, whether or not you believe in astrology, affect the collective. So it literally started then, Germany and Italy unified during this time, because this Neptune Aries can drive for new national identities. Also very telling and very pivotal for what's going on in the world. A lot of spiritualism and new religious movements were born during this time, like the Theosophists, which is basically the father of New Age spiritualism, which most Americans partake in. So yeah, what does Neptune and Aries mean? Creativity and innovation, exploring mystical and metaphysical aspects, which also Aquarius is sort of into that kind of stuff too. So we're going to have more eyes on spiritual leaders and people than celebrities. That's a prediction for this time period, that a lot of astrologers have said. The downfall of celebrity, of people in power, and actually moving back to a more sustainable model where the people who are helping us heal and helping us open up and think for ourselves are going to be more in those leadership roles. A time to push boundaries and explore, create new and exciting pathways, learn the power of pairing imagination with practicality, and refining our fitness habits or taking new approaches to work. So we're going to see a lot of shifts just from these two. And I will say in 2025, every single planet will be in a new sign. So it will be a new world, basically, a new feeling. We have not felt all of these pieces all together all at once. That won't be until a little bit later in the year that completion will happen, but we are in a completely new vibe. We are in a new world as we know it, astrologically and energetically, throughout 2025. So I just wanted to talk about those two big picture shifts just to help you kind of understand, looking at the historical context of what happened during these times can help us understand what we might expect and what are the major themes that are going to be coming through that people will be focused on, whether or not they know what astrology is, they believe in it. These things happened, right? I don't think that, the Confederates and their like the slaves and all these people were like, oh boy, Neptune is in Aries, I wonder what that will bring us, right? Like, no. But yet it still happened. So still be aware of this, and that's why I like using astrology as a tool, because in my line of work, being a psychic, what I provide for people is clarity, looking into the future, finding answers, finding sense, finding direction, planning, so that we can remove the power that these things that we'll be facing hold over us. We'll remove the shock, the fear, we'll remove the lack of preparedness, right? So that is why I love using these systems, because they can make our lives easier, take the guessing work out of these things, right? Of course, that's a gift and a skill that I have personally, but I'm not the only one who has this skill and gift. And I think it's important, like, if we truly want to make our lives easier, we need to listen to spirit and we need to listen to source way more, because they know and they see all the potential for what is out there and the things that are fated to exist. And if we heed their warnings and we feel like we can surrender to them and find our own power and listen and move through it, it's going to be a lot easier for you. So those are just things to, just simple little tiny little light things. No big deal. I feel like I'm turning into like some suburban mom. It's like, it's fine, my child is calling me at 2 a.m. drunk at a party and the police are there, it's okay. Like, that's how I feel. Okay, so moving on from the astrology of it all, because I felt like that was a big picture piece. That was really nice. Let me take a sip from my coffee. Okay, so let's dive into the channeled and psychic stuff. So this is a mix of, for me, I know that I have the ability to take in a lot of information at once. I have Gemini, Mercury, Aquarius, third house. I have the ability to take in a lot of information. So I've been reading and keeping myself abreast of as much news as possible, because boy, are they doing a lot all at once, everywhere. Everything everywhere all at once. It's a great movie. I highly recommend it. And not get bogged down in it, not feel emotionally attached to it, because that's what I practice in my line of work, holding space, being in the depths, in the heaviness with people. I have an 8th house sun, so this is normal and everyday for me. So I've been taking all my knowledge from that, which I said, not a professional political person, just educating myself. I've been taking my knowledge from my therapy, because I studied psychology and therapy principles, and applying that knowledge of history and how people work. And then my ability to see the patterns of capitalism and colonialism and imperialism and what these people are doing. So pairing that with asking spirit, with my psychic abilities and channeled information for clients, for myself, for the purpose of this podcast as well, for the collective, basically. So yeah, let's get into this. So again, some of this is going to feel like conspiracy theory to some of y'all. Again, I'm not here to make your decisions for you. Take what you need. Please research. If you don't believe me, research, fact check me. I'm not saying, like I said, I literally said in the beginning, I'm not a professional at this. I am a professional in my field, and I feel it's necessary to talk about these things through the lens of my field. I'm using my expertise here, and I'm also just a regular person. So here we go. Okay, capitalism. Where do we start? So a lot of the stuff that we're going through right now is not new. It is how the US has propagandized, indoctrinated, and presented information to us over long periods of time. A lot of the ideologies that the US, just looking historically, was built on are not here to support many of the people living in the US now, right? Most of the ideologies that the US was created with were here to support white men. And then as time went on, white rich men, right? Or actually white rich men, and then as time went on, white regular men. There was a lot of these hierarchical structures that were taken when the US were created, or used when the US was created, right? So we have lesser peoples, people in the hierarchy, people of color, indigenous people, queer people, poor people. These are all like minority type groups that are disenfranchised in this system that we have, just in our constitution, right? We've had to add all these court cases and histories to make marriage legal, to make being gay not illegal, to allow Black people to have citizenship. What? That's crazy. To allow Black people to be seen as real humans. Like, that is shit that we have had to do in our history as a US when Neptune was in Aries, right? Last time. So we're seeing this from, again, I'm tying all the pieces together for you. It's important to acknowledge a lot of the stuff that people have been telling us, like people in power, politicians, corporations. They want, over time, they have shifted the actual true history and the narrative, and they're selling things to you under these new modernized rules or guises, under this belief that it's so far removed from what it was that you won't notice, right? So lots of people don't know the jail system. Why was jail, like the jail system in America, created? Not like a little, sheriff's jail that we see on the show Gunsmoke or something. A real like jail system that we're seeing. I believe the difference is jail versus prison, right? Prison system. Because there actually is a difference. I think jails are smaller and then prisons are the big ones. Correct me if I'm wrong. It's either that or the reverse. And so why were they created? Let's look historically. It seems to be right around the time when people of color were recognized by the US as humans who could have a right to vote. So we see, if we look at it through this lens, through the way that I see things, following the thread of money and power is always going to be the simplest way. But we see, okay, so Black people and people of color now are recognized as humans, as citizens, as people who have rights to vote. How do we secretly stop them from being able to do that? Boom, jail system. We make rules that we can enforce, laws that we can quote unquote catch these people in, or frame for most of them, and send them away into a prison or a jail. Then guess what? They don't have the right to vote anymore. And if you have like a felony or something worse, you don't get to vote. So it's a long-term game for them, right? And also, while they're in this prison or jail, what are they doing? Labor for huge corporations that make billions of dollars for cents at a time, for getting paid dollars, less than 10, like really little tiny amounts of money. So it's just a new way to shift and create slavery that is legally recognized, that people don't get to see what's going on in there, and they think it's normal and they think it's okay because it's under the guise of morality. Oh, you did something wrong, so you should be punished. But what? Why that way? Why that person, right? So those are things that we saw with the Pluto Capricorn, right? We're learning these injustices. Same thing with credit scores. Credit scores weren't invented until the 80s, y'all. Yet I was born in 95, so I was born into a world where I just thought that credit scores just existed and were just a thing for however long credit existed, which like that was around like Middle Ages time. And it's false. Basically what happened is, again, racism. It's like one of those things where it's like 9 times out of 10 you'll be safe if you use racism as the reason why things were invented in the US. again, people of color, Black people specifically, were able to buy homes, and the racist people didn't want Black people living next to them. They were like, ew, I want only white neighborhood. How can I get around this? Redlining, which I'll explain after this, and credit scores, right? So um, they basically created another hoop for people to jump through. So if you didn't qualify via your credit report and your credit score through these um I'm just going to call them, because it's my own opinion, arbitrary means, then you didn't get to get a loan. You didn't get to purchase a car. You didn't get to purchase a home. And that was, again, clandestine way that they could keep deterring people of color, more specifically, the stuff in the US is towards Black people, but all people of color get affected this way. From purchasing houses in white neighborhoods, from being able to have the same exact privileges and rights that white people did. So again, another hoop system that you have to jump through. And now, like, even regular people, even just regular, like, normal Americans struggle with this, and they're not able to get a good enough credit score to buy a home. Now it's more obvious that it's like rich versus everyone else, right? People with money versus people who don't. But white people with money, not people of color with money, right? The other way that they created this in a modern way, this segregation, was redlining, which I learned from my lovely partner Frankie, because his undergrad is in architecture, and you learn in architecture school, which I think you should learn in regular school, what redlining is. And basically same thing. Oh, well, I'm white and I'm rich and I don't want these people in my neighborhood. So when cities were like, the city government were creating like zones and things for housing, and for not just housing but buildings and infrastructures and things, they would kind of create with this red lines, because you use lines to draw in construction and architecture documents and things like that. They created these zones where it was like, if you were a person of color, you could live in this district, this area, and it would likely be like the more poor areas, or the areas that didn't have access to as many things. So if you look at them now, we've been existing in them for a long time. Some of them are changed, some of them are not. Out here in Los Angeles, they separated these communities by freeways. So these are like permanent structures that aren't being moved anytime soon, that literally separate groups of people from being able to intermingle with each other. And so in these neighborhoods, they don't have like fancy grocery stores or shopping, like companies, stores and things like that won't be there. Like if you go to like more poor neighborhoods, you'll see like a 99-cent store or a John's. I know like a lot of these grocery stores are regional. Versus if you go to like the white neighborhoods, they'll have like Trader Joe's and Whole Foods and Erewhon, and they'll have like pavilions or Gelson's, and these are all like higher end, fancier grocery stores. So they create, it's called a food desert. So this redlining is another like systemic way that our government has separated people based off of their race, their income, their class, um in society, right? And that is on purpose, because if you're separated, then you can never get better, right? We've known this story for a long time, right? Famous, I literally just watched Straight Outta Compton with my partner the other day, and that's the struggle that they talk about, right? Like if you're in the hood, then it becomes increasingly hard to get out of it. So they have literally created systemic, structural pieces so that people cannot move out of their lot in life that they were born into or forced into, and they have to perpetuate these harmful cycles. So this is how my brain is looking and thinking. I'm not the only person who has put this together. Again, I'm not the only person who knows these things, But unlearning all of these things, I'm like, hold on, wait a minute. Let me keep looking. Let me keep looking at the crumbs. Now that I know how the system plays the game and how they work, let me keep digging deeper. And again, I'm not the only one who's done this. Okay. So, thinking about capitalism, what is the American dream? What have they sold us with capitalism, right? We have, since World War II, capitalized on the propaganda that we are the strongest country in the world. We're the best country. We have the best quality of life. We have the best access to things. And that is because we boast that we have capitalism, which is a free market. We have an open system where it's pay for play. If anyone can join, anyone can make it rich, anyone can succeed. All you need to do is work hard and have a great idea. Which is why we have so many immigrants here, right? It is a space where anyone can be a part and anyone can find safety and happiness in the life of their dreams, right? The American dream in the 1950s was like, white picket fence, grass lawn, 2.5 kids, the newest oven, and stay home wife that cooks for you, all these pieces. So a lot of these turning points that we see kind of stem from the 1950s. So I'll be using the 1950s as a marker for a lot of things. And it's not because I'm like secretly racist and I want to make America great again in the way that Trump does, which is going back to the 1950s. It's just actually, if you look historically, when the data starts to shift. I looked at this study that shows like the wage gap and the quality of life based on that. And in the 1950s, people made more money than the cost of goods or the cost of houses. They could just get a regular job working at a store and they could buy a house. And then as time went on, so from the 1950s on, we see this huge gap where the cost of things keep rising, but the pay that we get paid is barely incrementally rising, right? I live in California where our minimum wage is like $15, but the federal minimum wage is like $8 or something. It's like $7 and change. Like it is very, very low. Let me fact check myself. Let me look up federal. So federal minimum wage, right? Like we are specific in California because we're not a right to work state. So we have workers' rights. So we have more unions, we have higher pay. It's more expensive to live here. So they're like, yo, like if I were to make $8 minimum wage, I wouldn't be able to afford literally anything out here. Federal minimum wage. I'm Googling so I can fact check myself. $7.25 per hour. Nope, this is as of January 1st, 2025. And it has been that way since 2009. Let that sink in. Yet, does your clothes cost the same as they did in 2009? Does your rent cost the same as it did in 2009? Does anything cost the same? Oh, the Costco hot dog taste is the same as it was in 2009. God bless. But that's literally because their founder was like, I'll kill you if you increase the price. Like he literally has gone on record being like, that is not allowed. He didn't say I'll kill you. I'm obviously making it for fun. So thinking about this, right? How come that is? Why is it like that? Why the government actually doesn't care about us, and they just keep saying everything is more expensive, so we have to charge you more, yet they're not giving us more money in our pockets to pay for that more thing. So now we're kind of in this is what I'm talking, this is where we're getting to if you're like, what the heck is the point? This work-life balance. We have no time. We don't have money. We don't have time, right? Because the capitalism system, if you're not an entrepreneur, you basically are spending 40 hours or more of your life, which is most of your life, working for someone else, working for a wage that is well below your worth, and feeling like that's what you're worth, right? Because that's the most of the interaction and how all of our brain is wired. I was literally looking at the thing that Trump was talking about today about the gold card for rich people where they can buy citizenship for $5 million. All he kept saying was, They're going to come here and they're going to spend money. They're going to work. They're going to create so many jobs for all these people. And I'm thinking, why is this person just sitting here talking about work, 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 work? And sorry, my lights just, they're on the timer. Um, and that's the only thing in this, in that he's talking about, because that's all capitalism is about. Capitalism is the free market is sort of a lie. It's like, yeah, we have all these products and things available to us, but it prioritizes money over everything, profits over people, quantity over quality, right? And this is what where we're at now in 2025, is we're seeing like the breakdown of all of these systems and the lack of sustainability in many different ways, in our planet, in our lives, in the products, in our health, right? Like all of these things, this, like everything is made with plastic because it's cheaper, and it's horrible for the environment, it's horrible for our reproductive system, it's horrible for ourselves with like cancer and all these things. Like it's not sustainable, it breaks down, it can't be reused, it's just wasteful. So that's kind of like where we're at with this work-life balance. I make barely any money, and I have to dedicate so much time. So my little tiny free time that I have to myself, I'm not able to enjoy it in the way that I want to, because I'm limited by my funds. Because now I have to think really hard. If I get paid $20 an hour, if you're lucky in the rest of the US, then you spend, most people, more than 50% of their income is their rent. Then you have a little bit left over and you say like, what do I even want to do with this? And then you hear like, oh, you're not saving enough, you need to invest in this or that. Like you have to play in all these games and schemes and coupons and codes and all these things just to make some money, just to be able to afford things. So with this though, we're so concerned with like this hamster wheel of like, I got to get this done, I don't have enough time, I have to clean this, I have to meet with this friend, I have to save my money for this, I can't spend on this, blah 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 blah, blah, that we are blinded and distracted by the big picture at hand, where they're like doing all away with all this shit in front of us and behind our backs, and we simply just don't have the time or the energy to hold them accountable or keep them in place. I've been seeing these like TikTok videos of people who live in other countries or are American and have moved to another country, and their rent is capped at a certain rate. Like the landlords do not have a chokehold over them and a free market, quote unquote, to be able to like price gouge and just charge whatever they want. And their the wage that they get paid is like really affordable. This one person was like, my rent is $750, I make $75K a year, I can live however I want, right? That rent is less than what I pay, and I'm like, with my partner, I split half and half, right? And like my partner has a really, like, he makes more than 75K a year, yet we don't live like that. We have bills, we have debt, we have loans, we have all of these things because we were told, you know, go to college and all this stuff, like all these lies, right? That we are seeing are just distractions for the big picture at hand. So with this, the reason why I'm talking about all this stuff is to kind of denote, like, just understand that capitalism is a system that is not built to support you unless you're a rich white man. Because women also had to fight for the right to vote. And we are in this sort of, where they want us, right where they want us, in this hamster wheel of working hard so you can survive, so you can pay your rent, so you don't become homeless, so you don't die, so you don't go to jail, and then not having enough time or energy, because I recently learned that the 40-hour work week was based on men and their hormone systems and their circadian rhythms and how they process energy. So all of the women who they were like, sure, yeah, go ahead, have it all, be a mom, work, cook, clean, all this stuff, it's not conducive for female bodies, which blew my mind, that you can look up as well. And they've done studies on our quality of life based off of that wage gap, and it's actually worse than it was in like freaking feudal Europe. Like they literally made more money for the work that they put in and the time that they put in than we do now. Like their quality of life, like how much they worked, how much they made, better than 2025 US, which is like, when you think about it, they they teach us that feudalism in Europe was like one of the worst and most intense times to live in because it was just horrible. There was like indentured servitude, um, just in a different name. And somehow now, modernly, where we're supposed to have amazing benefits and things, we don't. Everything is pay for play, right? We work hard, we pay into social security, we're lucky if we get enough funds. We work hard, we put away for our health insurance, and then yet we still have to pay thousands of dollars for costs. And big pharma companies and all these other companies, like, they're not concerned with actually helping you heal, they're just concerned with making more money, right? They had to put a cap on the price of penicillin, or not penicillin, of insulin for people with diabetes, because they were just skyrocketing the price, because they literally were like, we know that you'll die without it, so how much are you willing to pay? Like, that's not health. That is not, you need this to live, here, have access to this, right? Out of the 33 world countries that are in the same echelon as us, 32 of them have free healthcare. Guess who's the 33rd that doesn't? America. Um so yeah, so we have this sort of hamster wheel where we're concerned with ourself and our well-being. America's very individualistic. We're taught stay in your own lane, do your own stuff. In the 1950s, you know, you could run over to the other person, you know, the whatever someone's house, and their mom is allowed to tell you if you did something wrong. It takes a village mentality, and that started dying off into like individualism here in the US. And so now it's like everyone for themselves, no one is connected, no one knows each other, everyone's trying to just stay alive, stay afloat, right? We have this systemic issue. Why does everyone need therapy? If everyone needs therapy, that's a systemic issue. That means that our society is making us sick, mentally sick and physically sick, because of all the unregulated, like in Europe, in the UK, red dye 40 is illegal because it is literally 100% proven to cause cancer or highly increase the chance of cancer. Yet it's perfectly fine to put in our hot Cheetos and our candies and our pastries and all these things out in the US, because they don't care. They don't actually care about your health. They just care about getting your money. They care about you buying hot Cheetos because it's all a connected system, right? You buy these hot Cheetos from whatever company. Who owns Cheetos? Is it like Nestle or something like that? I'm gonna Google that. They're all basically one giant company that makes a bunch of money, and it's like Coke and Pepsi, Nestle, and they all own all these. Who owns Cheetos? Pepsi. When I say everything is Pepsi and Coke, Frito-Lay. Frito-Lay, yep, which is owned by Pepsi. These companies also invest into big pharma. So it's like, we're going to give you a product that makes you sick. And then when you're sick, we're going to charge you an arm and a leg for the treatment. And then you belong to us. Bunch of debt, bunch of loans. Here you go, right? It's a system that they've created that we don't realize that we're in. That the company that sells the company that does the medicine, like the pharmacy medicine, for a lot of the things that could easily be treated with dandelions, is also the same company that owns Roundup, which is like one of the biggest weed killing like companies. So it's like dandelions, why I'm using this specifically is they're actually like one of the healthiest healers of plants that exist, and they're a weed. Like, literally nature has provided all of these things for us. So we just need, you can eat the roots, the leaves, the stem, the flower, and the dandelion. What does it do? It's anti-inflammatory. Wow, I'm blanking on these facts. Hold on. I've looked this up before. Dandelion benefits. Sorry, y'all. Anti-inflammatory, reduces the chance of developing certain cancer and heart disease, has antioxidants, it's an oxidative, hold on. benefits. I'm gonna look this up. I don't trust Google anymore, so very nutritious, has vitamin A, C, K, E, folate, B, the greens, this pop up, have magnesium, potassium, iron, calcium. It's an it's an inulin, which is a soluble fiber, which is great for healthy gut and bacteria in your digestive tract. It has potent antioxidants, which antioxidants help reverse like cell damage. They help with your immune system. Beta carotene, which is great for your eyes. Basically reversing stresses and breaking down in your body. It helps fight inflammation. It aids in blood sugar management, reducing cholesterol and triglyceride levels, may lower blood pressure, promote liver health. It's a detoxifier. It detoxifies our liver. Can help with weight loss. My lash girl, she lost 75 pounds by eating dandelion every day. Anti-cancer effects, healthy digestion, treat constipation, boost immune system, can be great for skin, making our skin radiant and young, healthy bones. Literally so many different things and it's a weed. It's a weed that just grows in the grass here. And yet there's all these like pieces that we don't see where most of these pharmaceutical medicines are derivatives of actual herbs and plants that exist, and then just taking that one element, isolating it, and then putting it into an unhealthy pill form that has a bajillion side effects, as opposed to just saying, hey, just eat some more of these herbs and vegetables in your diet and maybe it will undo these things, right? Or if we really want to get into it, deal with your emotions, which we don't have time for because we're Americans, y'all. So now you're starting to see the cycle. Hopefully you're starting to see the cycle that I'm talking about. Okay, let me move on. I am actually following this. Okay, so now we're in this cycle. What is next? Well, things are looking pretty grim. What do I do? Like, I can't decide between, do I help the world or do I help myself? Because my long to-do list and my never-ending, inescapable hamster wheel of life. And now we add the fear element, right? What is the fear if we don't fall in line and pay our bills and do all of our things? We'll be homeless because we don't have security of our home, our rent. And what are they doing? They're criminalizing homelessness, so that in some places it already is. So if you become homeless, you just go straight to jail. You become part of the workforce for the free labor. That's what they want, right? You don't listen, boom, part of our free labor system. The fear with homelessness, and this is so crazy. I learned this as well. I didn't put this in here, but I was just reminded of this. A lot of big corporations will buy residential properties and leave them vacant so that they can write them off as a loss in their taxes at the end of the year. Like, there's a company out here called Caltrans, and they do our transportation systems. They buy, also BlackRock got, like, the Pluto Capricorn got highlighted in this, for buying up properties, leaving them vacant so they can say, oh, I didn't make any money off of this. And then no one gets to live in them. So what does that do? It makes the price of rent higher because there's less available options to live. Like, this is all a systemic thing. It's all intertwined with the rich people and who is calling the shots. But yeah, so then you have this fear that, like, if I take the time to protest, or if I go to my town hall, like, I won't be able to cook dinner and my kid won't eat, or I might, get fired from my job and then I can't pay my bills and then I'm on the streets. They create this sense of fear. They create this relationship where they detach you from your sense of power. You're so distracted with just surviving that you don't realize that there's way more of us than them, and that we all pay them. We pay into Social Security. We pay into all of these things, that taxes and things that pay these people, at least on the non-shady level. And yet we feel like we don't have a say and we don't get a decision, or a chance to speak up that works for us. That's why I love using France as an example, because since the French Revolution, they've remembered that. We are the people, we have the power. If their government does one tiny little thing to piss them off, they don't go to work, they protest, they do it till the thing is fixed. The same thing happened in Mexico. Women wanted to legalize abortion. They spent, I think it was like 30 days or something. I think it was less than that, but they went to the Capitol and they protested. They didn't go to work. They didn't do anything. They were on strike. And then it worked. They got abortion legalized, right? So these are the things that they use this erasure of history. They don't teach it. They're now doing it again by banning books for children that are growing up now. They're not going to know these things. I literally have talked to someone who lives in the South. It was on the news. That it's both. I've talked to someone and I've seen it on the news. So it's not an isolated incident. They didn't believe that the Holocaust was real, because the educational system, their school system, didn't teach actually real sources. They taught this book that became really popular and got made into a movie called The Boy in the Striped Pajamas, which is literally, like the author says, it's not based in facts or logic or truth for whatever happened. It's like a fantasy of what he wanted to happen, where they basically humanized the Nazis. And so people grow up being taught that in their curriculum, as opposed to like the Diary of Anne Frank. And then they think, why are all these people so upset about the Holocaust? And why are they saying never again? It didn't seem that bad. It wasn't even what they're saying that happened. That's not what I learned, right? So they at the same time as creating this hamster wheel, they use propaganda and lies. And they don't educate us well enough. A lot of the states, when people ask, a lot of my clients have been asking, why would these people vote for this person? A lot of the red states are educationally ranked lower. They don't have as much funding for these things, and they don't have the knowledge of these things. And then when it comes time to educate themselves, they don't know how to do that, because our country has this don't ask, don't tell policy from the military, where, what are the topics that are appropriate to talk about at the dinner table? Not politics, right? Not religion, not sex, because we're unpracticed at being able to have educated conversations where we disagree with each other and where we navigate differences. It just becomes blaming and shaming other people for what they believe, because belief is the hardest thing to change in a person. And the reason is because we tie our identity to our belief. And so these people grow up believing one thing, and then you're telling them something else, and then they're feeling like their whole life is a lie and everything is a sham. And so they have that paired with, in school, we're learned to accept and to listen to authority as the above all end all, which is why these people value whatever they learned in school over, or didn't learn in school, or learned from their leaders, right? Like church leaders, community leaders, politicians, etc. So we're taught, raise your hand if you need to say something, stand in a single file line. If you need to go to the bathroom, you have to hold it in. We are literally taught to ignore our body's rhythms and cycles over what someone else tells us to do. So we have all of these pieces kind of working in this weird machine together. Put on my jacket. And we have people that aren't used to asking these questions, thinking critically, communicating with difference, understanding how other people live and what they're going through, because they're too focused on trying to take care of them and theirs, that where was I in this? That we don't realize that we've been lied to and we're indoctrinated. So these people who voted for Trump, they didn't have any time and energy to actually do the research. They don't know how to do the research. They just believe whatever they're told. They're like, girl, you want me to do what? I have to go home and make dinner. I don't have time for this. So they're indoctrinated to believe the loudest person in the room, the most authoritarian seeming person in the room. So they just believe whatever this person says blindly, because they're too exhausted to do otherwise. They would then have to educate themselves on how to do all these things and to look it up because everything is hidden, right? Like Google, we're seeing with like TikTok is there's suppression of content, um, you know, typical fascist regime stuff. They're controlling the narrative. We don't have access to these facts. It becomes really hard. You know, they say, oh, everything's on Google. Some stuff that I Googled, there's not information available for it. That actually happens to me a lot. Like I'm like, did I pick the words wrong? I got to ask another way and another way and another way until I can find the information, or I have to look at the source that I found it from that has the link to the information because I couldn't find it on the internet, right? So they done studies on this during the Pluto Capricorn where depending upon where you live when Trump was running against Hillary, if you Googled, that became like a whole thing in the news. It showed certain things about Hillary and certain things about Trump when you Googled it, so that you would only see good things about Trump and only see negative things about Hillary Clinton, right? Because the corporations pay for all these things. So Google, right, pays for all these things and controls the narrative, or people pay Google so that they could control the narrative because we are a pay for play system. Right now we're seeing how it's all coming together, right? Because we are pay for play, we allow for these things to happen, and therefore we get inaccuracies, lies, inconsistencies. Propaganda is so easy. All I have to do is pay more money. And who are the people that have the money to pay? Not us, because we're stuck on this hamster wheel, barely making it by because our system doesn't pay us enough or give us enough resources at fair costs and wages. And the only people who have that time and energy to do that are people with money, are resourced people, are privileged people. So that's how a lot of people ended up voting for this person, and we're seeing that now where they're all in town halls and they're like, yo, I voted for you and the exact opposite of what you said was going to happen happened. It's like, well, this person is a felon and a liar, so why would you believe anything that they say in the first place? But maybe you didn't know that, or maybe you were just told to not listen to that. And, you know, you heard all the things, or hopefully you've heard all the things that Trump was saying. Like every single thing he deflects, he says it's a lie, he says it's this, he says it's that. No one fact checks him, right? You just, okay, I'm going to listen to what he says. Because he seems authoritarian, he seems to know what he's doing, or he's different than the people that I know lie to me. He doesn't seem like a politician, so why would he lie to me? So we have that piece. The other piece that a lot of people were asking me about is like the youth, right? Like how do these people join these fascist and Nazi and really horrible ideologies, these brainwashing ideologies, right? We see like the people that were hired for Doge were like age 19 to 24, and they're all white men, or not all white men, they're all men. And then we see, you know, like all the school shooters are white men for the most part. A lot of these hateful young men are listening to people like Joe Rogan and Andrew Tate, and they are known to be liars, and they don't fact check themselves hardly ever. They just speak from the authority piece that's within them. And a lot of people have been like, how does that happen? Like, how do you like fall into that? So the thing is, after religion stopped being very popular, which again, 1950s, this stuff started breaking down around the 60s, 70s, in America. People weren't as religious. We start to have this more individualistic mentality. So people are like, I'm just going to do what I need to do. So it's like you're raised based off of whatever your family values are. A lot of people don't even follow their own family values. It's very individualized. Then we have COVID, where we're super separated from people. We can't even physically touch them or be in person with them. So we're lacking community. And this is not a random occurrence. We see this with a lot of infrastructure. There aren't very many third spaces in the US. Third spaces are places where you can go. So like a tertiary and secondary, or primary and secondary spaces are like your home or your work. Spaces where you frequent a lot. Third spaces are places where you would go to meet with people, like parks, cafes, co-working spaces, right? A lot more older countries have more of these kind of baked in. But in America, there aren't really very many third spaces that aren't pay for play because we're capitalism, right? You can only use the bathroom if you have money. You can only sit here at this cafe if you buy something, right? Like these are not spaces where people can just come and enjoy. And no one wants to create a third space because if it's just for free for people, who's going to pay for it, right? Like the library is like a third space, but that's funded by federal, or probably will be defunded by federal, right? So we systemically don't have spaces where we can gather and communicate and talk to each other that aren't centered on buying things like markets, vending markets and things like that. And the other way that we're kind of like individualized is with like social media, the advent of all that kind of stuff, right? Like we are connecting with people more on the internet, but not having that true in-person real connection. We're having parasocial relationships, which is where we don't know someone in real life or in the way that we think that we do in real life, but we still have an attachment to them. That's like the rise of celebrities. Like people watch, Justin Bieber and Angelina Jolie on their social media and they feel personally connected to them, even though that person has no idea that you exist and what you are and who you are and what you look like and what your name is. So we're seeing like multiple different ways in which we're becoming isolated, right? We don't have enough time, we don't have enough money, we can't enjoy things, we don't have enough third spaces. We don't have infrastructure built to support this. We're moving away from religion. And so religion is a big space where we have community. That's why people traditionally like going to religion, because it's a built-in local community that is there to support you and is there for you through your things that you're going through, maybe financially or otherwise. They have all these different types of service in religious spaces like childcare, food drives, all kind of stuff. That's why we see raves being really popular, because going to concerts and raves creates a sense of spiritual community, because in traditional religion you would just sing together, right? And everyone knew all the words, and that's what makes you feel like you belong and you feel God. Same thing happens at a concert, right? It's a spiritual experience where we're all singing and coming together, and having that sense of community. Yet now at a concert, it's like your seat 21F, get out of my seat. You didn't pay for this. Like, I'm just here enjoying with my 5 people or my other person that I'm at the concert with, and I don't care to get to know you, because of how our culture is and how our society is. So with COVID, there was even more separation. So these young people are looking for a sense of community and a sense of belonging. And they are indoctrinated to listen to the loudest, most masculine person in the room as the form of authority. So they're looking for this kind of leadership and authority. And these men like Andrew Tate and Joe Rogan are online speaking loudly, having lots of followers, having lots of authority, potentially lying and saying that they have all these women, all these things that these young men are looking or aspiring to have. And we see that with even school shooters. These are like incels, people who didn't have access to that and got so upset that they didn't have access to any of that kind of stuff, power, money, women, that they shoot up other people like crazy. That's how this system is so sick, right? Obviously gun control, but I'm just talking about from the psychological standpoint. So these men are looking for an authority figure. They're looking for a sense of community and belonging. And if that means that they have to, adorn a MAGA hat and say a racial slur to someone so that they can feel like they belong and people accept them, then they will. Because there was this study done that I learned in school. It was in my like science textbook, so I can't really... You can Google it. It's in a science textbook, where they took baby monkeys, and they're mammals just like us, our most close relative, and they separated them from their mother. They put them in a cage with a teddy bear and food. And it was like 80 or 90% of the time they chose the teddy bear, because mammals, humans, monkeys, would prefer to feel safe and comfortable over being nourished and sheltered. That is what is more important to humans: safety and comfortability, sense of belonging, sense of love, sense of care, versus the other side of that, having your needs met: food, water, bathroom, shelter, etc. So that is why these people are willing to turn on their family, their culture, other humans, etc., and join these causes that are radical and ridiculous and don't make any sense, because they want to feel powerful. They want to feel like they're important. They want to feel like they belong. They want to feel like whatever those people are selling to them. And they want to join that because that is more important to them than the actual piece, like money, food, all these pieces, right? And usually those people promise that you'll get those things anyways. So it's like win-win, no brainer for them. So that's why we get into these spaces that we're in. People aren't thinking critically. They're just receiving information that they were taught in school. They don't have time to do it. They're not concerned with it. It's the last furthest thing from their mind. They don't care about what other people are experiencing in the world because it doesn't affect them. So they can keep living on their life and doing what they want to do. And even if it's like not helping every single other person around them. So I'm wrapping it up now. I talked about big pharma and the earth's medicine. I talked about the American dream, talked about uneducated spaces. I talked about stirring the narrative. Like, you see how all these pieces kind of coalesce. So basically it creates a system where we're tired, we're sick, we're unable to focus on what matters. We just accept what we can and continue because we're so separated and focused on ourselves that we don't realize every single person is also suffering in the same exact way that we're suffering. And we're too afraid to speak out about it, or too busy to even get to that point, to have that conversation. And it kind of just leaves us separately, all suffering in the same exact way, which is why if you've listened or watched or read anything that's talking about what's going on now, every single person is saying organize, find community. And while that may seem daunting and scary, it's just one conversation away from knowing that you can trust your neighbor. It's one conversation away from knowing that maybe you provide this service and this other person provides this service, and you can just barter or trade for this. You're one step away from maybe this person has this thing, and they can provide that when shit hits the fan, and you can provide this, and etc. That is the true crux of it all, is community. That is why so many people feel so isolated. Like, and I see this in the spiritual community. Every single person that I talk to who went through their spiritual awakening feels like they were crazy, feels like they were alone, and they had nobody there to support them. Nobody in their life understood them. Yet everybody that I talk to says this. So how does everyone have this same seemingly isolated thing happen to them, yet it's the same? Everybody is together in this separately, right? And so with creating grassroots movements, with creating change to returning the power back to the people, we will need community. It is communities. The reason why people of color and queer people, not just because they were the most, marginalized communities, are the forefront of these movements, is because they understand the importance of community, because they were ostracized from the larger societal community at hand, right? Queer people were illegal. Queer people were beaten in the streets, were shamed, were made fun of, etc., etc. They were kicked out of their families, excommunicated, right? They had to find community and build their own community with each other, a community that would support them when times were tough, a community that would house them if they got kicked out of their house, a community that would be there for them if they were dying, in the hospital of AIDS. Like, it was like all community. And so when you have that strong sense of community, you know what to fight for, and you fight that fight because you know what you could lose because you went through it in some way, shape, or form. And also, you're the first thing that is going to get attacked. We're seeing that. That's what they did in Nazi Germany. They attacked the queer people first. then the people of color, then the Jewish people, right? So same thing with Black people. They were othered because of who they were, that they had to find their own sense of community. They had to stick with each other. And then they knew like no one else is going to have my back except the other people of color here. And even in that, there's all these separation tactics with our social hierarchy with this pay for play system, right? Like you can be a white man and you're on the top of the food chain, but maybe you're a white gay man and you're like, well, at least you start it's called bootlicking. You start positioning yourself as like, well, I'm gay, but I'm at least a white man, so I'm better than this gay Black person over here, right? Like they've turned it so we're fighting with each other. Oh, like you're Mexican, blah, blah, blah. Oh, I'm Black. We're gonna fight each other because of something that the narrative, the government, the media has sold us, right? And speaking of the media, like the media is even being censored because both of those words I feel apply. Like what is it, the AP news outlet refused to acknowledge the renaming of the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America, and they were kicked out of being able to be in the press room for all the White House stuff, right? We're seeing this censorship happening if you are disobedient already, and that is the system that we live in. And so we have this kind of where we see like this system of these people that actually put their money where their mouth was are the ones that understand, because they're part of the communities that get the brunt of all of this stuff that was created, while all the rest of us white people are paying for play and finding some success in it. We don't acknowledge that there's other people who might be paying for play or trying to pay for play, like immigrants, and they're getting screwed over and they're getting othered left and right. So yeah, we see this illusion kind of pulled away that it's not supporting anyone really now, right? Now it's become so extreme that it's like the rich people versus everyone else. And even white men are suffering because of this, right? So when it's every single person that's losing, it kind of shows you that the system needs to be torn down and changed. It can't be, the system is too big to be patched over like how it has been in other administrations, right? We get some things back, we lose some things. Like the Biden administration gave us back a few things, but largely unreported or not seen as much in the news. There were a lot of things that they did roll back, and they did continue to change in that same way, moving towards the same thing that Donald Trump and Elon Musk are really overtly just out here pushing and really like getting it, you know, like in the forefront and saying it. Like they're doing Nazi salutes on the stage. They're emboldened enough because we're so busy and so divided that doing that, they can get away with it. So yeah, think about your role in the revolution. Think about the people who fought before you and how there was erasure of how real history is, how it was violent, how it was long, there were risks, there was suffering, so that other people can be better in the long run, right? The Civil War, like people died to fight for the rights of people of color. And we are still here thankful for that today. But that if we don't continue to fight against the powers that be, then we might not have a chance to fight, right? And then we're going to be relying on the other countries to support us. No one has stopped the war in Gaza, the genocide, for over a year because of fear of World War III, because of all this nuclear stuff that we have, right? So much fear that is stopping us. But if we come together in community, we realize we're not all that different. We realize we're stronger than we think when we have support, a quilt of a support network, right? As opposed to one strand of yarn, we are many quilted together, making a strong quilt or blanket. And yeah, remembering that it might be a little bit more work than we think, but it'll be better for in the long run. We're fighting for something. We're fighting for the planet. We're fighting for our friends, our family, our rights, whatever it is. You got to find that motivation within you and figure out how can you help, because everyone does have a role in this. I literally learned yesterday that the word heretic in ancient, or not ancient, like medieval English, just meant able to choose. Now it means that you're speaking out against some kind of system and that you're bad. This is the propaganda. These are the micro changes that all add up in a system. That's why they want to separate us out and have us focus on this issue and that issue and that issue, or this person and that community and that thing, because when we're focused on one at a time, we aren't able to see it all together, and we aren't able to see, like, why does it really matter why I'm arguing to this other person about this one piece when we're all suffering in the same way, or we're all facing the same thing. We learn, like, there are better, bigger fish to fry that will actually make a difference, right? Like, why does it matter if abortion is legal if women don't have rights anymore? Why does it matter if abortion is legal if all of our children are born sick? I'm not saying that that's what happens. I'm just saying, like, these can be like extreme examples that can happen, right? Like, why does it matter? I know it's like, obviously abortion, I'm pro-abortion, but like, or pro-choice. But like, I'm just trying to use like extreme examples kind of shittily. These things are what we're focused on fighting about. Like, okay, here we go. Why does it matter where people go to the bathroom and what their genitals are when they're using the bathroom? We all fly on a plane, and every single person on the plane uses the same exact toilet in the same exact room, right? It's all the same. It's multi-gender, and nobody has an issue going one at a time using it. So it's like, why are we arguing about this thing here where people can go to the bathroom, when really what we should be asking is, why are those people being seen as evil? And why are we being distracted by trans people when all of this other stuff is going on, when all of these other rights are being taken away, right? They're distracting us with hot button issues, with things that are actually humanitarian. They shouldn't be political. They should just be, you're a human, you get to use the restroom, period. Like, you're human, you get to live your life happily in the way that you want to. It doesn't matter to me what your genitals are, because it's not my life, it's your life. Live your life, enjoy your life, be happy. They don't want you to be happy. They don't care about your happiness. They care about your money, and they care about your power. They want to control you with your money and your power. They want you to believe that you have no power so they can take it and use it. That's why all these people did these weird sex spell rituals and things. It's about power and money. So that was a long time that I was talking, and I also have a sound bath right after this in like 15 minutes that I have to drive to facilitate. So I just cleared out my throat chakra. I just got that shit out for y'all. But yeah, look at other countries. Look at France and their history and what they do now. Do your research, look up all these things. Like I said, I'm a big picture person, so I didn't really come at you with hard facts. So I was like Googling the things, like I learn it and I retain it, but the facts part of it is not going to stick so much in my head. So just think about this. Think about, where are my boundaries? What are my morals? What am I willing to fight for? And what is the bottom line in which I have to say, okay, that's it, I'm tagging in. I need to say something about this, or I need to start organizing, or I need to be in a protest, or I need to go to local like town hall or local government level, or I'm gonna not show up for work and I'm gonna do blah, 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 right? That's why our system is built on money. That's why all these protests are fiscal, right? We're cutting down the corporations where we feel that we have the most power, which is we fund them, we keep them in business, and yet they mistreat us, and they pay for, like, Target, not even the DEI thing. Target pays the same amount of money towards anti-LGBTQ companies or nonprofits as they do towards pro-LGBTQ nonprofits and companies. If you look at these companies' like money, you see, like, it's all a lie. It's all a scam. They're going to pander to you. They're going to pander to your enemies. Why? So that you'll keep buying their products and you'll keep making them money. Who does that serve? Cui bono? Who does that serve? How does that help? What progress does that make? I'm here arguing against these anti-LGBTQ people when they're saying yes to both behind our backs, right? There's so much of this going on. that we really have to say, like, I need to be in my community. I need to be in reality. I can't just escapism out of it. That's what New Age spirituality, escapism. That's what America does. They go into other countries, they fuck it up, they pull out. Then they say, oh, it's some other power vacuum. They don't have strong enough government because you came and you ruined it. You put in your order, your imperialism, and then you left when it didn't serve you, when you got the oil, when you got the commodity that you needed. You just lied and said it was because of terrorism, right? So think about that. Think about all of these things. Comment, let me know, follow us, share. I welcome actual real conversations, not blaming, not name calling, none of that, but real conversations, real critical thinking. This might be new information for a lot of people. This might be information you've heard. Keep thinking, keep talking, keep doing. We need doing. That's where we're at now. We need doing, right? In roles in the revolutions, there's organizers, there's yappers like me, there's healers, there's strategizers, there's people with actual like skills that we can use, right? So think about, how do I want to contribute, and do I want to, say that I made a difference in the future of the world, in my community, for my family, for my lineage, for humans, for the other animals that are suffering because of humans' choices, that don't even get to say anything except the whales that are taking out all the yachts. Like, literally, the whales got radicalized, y'all. Like, we got to get radicalized. So yeah, I don't know. Hopefully this helps make sense of things. I talked about a lot of topics. I tried to keep it logical. Usually I feel like I'm all over the place, and then people are like, no, this was great. So let me know. Again, welcome to March. There's stuff brewing. Get ready for it. Get ready for it. Prepare yourself. Prepare yourself in a way that feels best. Do research on how to prepare yourself from people who are organizers, people who have studied these things, who have knowledge of these things. Don't let the fear control you, because that's what they want, and that's what has been the rating system. We are moving past fear into power. We are seeing through the lies. And that's why I'm here as a healer. I'm helping you tap into your body, which taps into your intuition, which allows you to trust yourself, which allows you to be connected to your power, which allows you to stand firm and to speak up and to take action and know that what you're doing is correct for whatever that means for you. But if we are removed from our intuition, which is a whole systemic thing, right? We are taught to value logic in school, facts and figures and science. Intuition knew all these pieces that science is just now explaining. So we can still get there through using these other things. Our intuition doesn't steer us wrong, but lies about facts and figures do. Lies about knowledge, controlling the narrative, propaganda, that does, right? So, yeah, think about it in that way. How can I trust myself? How can I tap into my power? How can I connect to my intuition so that when it comes time to do what I need to do, I feel like I'm ready to do it. I don't struggle and never do it because I'm in fear. Think about all these pieces and how they all work together. Yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say. Again, if you enjoy this podcast, please review us, share, post on your story. If I can get up to these things for monetization, then I can continue to make more content. That's kind of the goal, and be paid for it and continue to give you free content. And you can just skip past the ad, which is exactly what I do for a lot of my podcasts. And we can continue to help other people find their strength, find their power, connect to their body, feel happy and good in their lives. And we're just at a weird part of history where we're really going to have to be really active in that. But, I always used to say I'd rather be in one of those, movies where the main character is fighting for a revolution and knowing that every action that they take is important and meaningful and impactful, versus just selling some product that someone doesn't need, just so my company can make money, type of thing. I mean, obviously I work for myself. a lot of entrepreneurship is going to be, I feel like, a new trend, because we're going to be looking at how can I make money and not be part of capitalism or not be part of supporting these evil corporations, and how can I bring my gifts and my talents to the table and continue to trade and barter and create a like sustainable society, right? Like, imagine if you're like, my job now is bring me your stuff that's dirty or broken that you don't want to clean. I'll clean it for you. I'll fix it for you. Comes back on the market. We don't have to continue to buy new stuff every 6 months. Like, there's so many cool jobs, cool things that can be more supportive on a community level, on a systemic level, and a reality level. So yeah, all of those things and more. And I don't know, I love you. You matter. If you're really anxious after this, lay on the floor and just breathe and lay flat on the back on the floor and breathe. Count, 3 things you can see, 3 things you can feel, 3 things you can smell. You can get yourself back in your body and reset your nervous system. Yeah. So until next week, I'll see y'all. Thank you for listening to your intuition and listening to the Empowered Intuitive podcast. I would absolutely love it if you could leave a review on Spotify, Google, or Apple Podcasts, subscribe or follow the pod wherever you stream, and legit just tell all your spiritual baddie friends and fam about us. You can follow the Empowered Intuitive Pod on IG at the Empowered Intuitive Pod. For updates and fun memes, follow our host Love on IG and TikTok at Love Sakratoff. That's LOVESACHARTOFF. Or head to their website to subscribe to their newsletter, book a session, or attend an upcoming event with them at lovesakratoff.com. And remember, trust your intuition.